So this is something that I think I really ought to say, and believe me, I don't want to because I really like Sigma's series of art lenses. I've actually owned quite a fair few of them, including the 20, the 35, the 50, and the 24 to 105. I think the only two that I really haven't owned are the 24 and the 24 to 35 f2 zoom. There's also the 18 to 35 for crop sensor cameras, but I don't own a crop sensor camera, so there's no reason for me to own that one. Now, I really want to preface this by saying that I really liked those lenses. They were optically superb, their build quality was very good, and especially in the case of the 20, I believe that it was a really unique lens that could do something that no other lens could do. But today I took back to the store and I exchanged it for this little guy. This is the Nikon 20mm f1.8G, which is also a very good lens and very similar to the Sigma, but obviously doesn't go to f1.4. It's a lot smaller and lighter, but that's not the reason why I decided to get this one. So whilst doing some preliminary testing yesterday, I found that one of the problems that the Sigmas continued to have was basically extremely unreliable autofocus in low light, especially when using the Speedlight's infrared AF assist beam. So if you don't know, basically in low light there are two ways that you can focus. You can either use the camera's on camera little LED, which gives off a white light. So that's basically anytime you're not using a speed light. And if you are using a speed light with the IR AF assist beam, it'll give off a red light, which will help the camera focus. So the red light is much better. It allows the camera to acquire focus much more quickly, and on top of that, it's usually less distracting to your subjects than the bright white light that the camera gives off. Now, the way that the red beam works is that it uses algorithms to calculate the distance between itself and the subject, and then it relays that to the camera in order to help it autofocus. So you can expect that it work fine with all Nikon lenses, and it does. I've tried it with all of my Nikon lenses, including the 50 f1.8G, which I had at the time of testing, along with the Sigmas, and also my new 20, my 85, which is over here, and also my 35 f1.8G. They all work perfectly well with the AF assist beam on the camera, on the speed light, but the Sigmas don't. So I believe the problem lies within Sigma's way of trying to AF on Nikon bodies. So instead of licensing the technology from Nikon, which I don't believe Nikon will allow them to do, they hack basically Nikon's AF algorithms, or reverse engineer, which is just a fancy term for hacking. And it doesn't always work. Now, so it's fair game. Go buy the Sigma art lenses if they suit what you need to do, and I believe that they'll serve you brilliantly well. I wanted to keep my Sigma art lenses. I didn't want to go and exchange them for these little Nikon f1.8G primes, but I've had to because of the fact that they cannot autofocus properly with the Speedlight's IR AF assist beam. Now, I want to put some crops onto the screen now so we can actually talk about them. So whilst you view them, I just wanted to discuss sort of basically what happened and what weighed into my decision to go and return them today. So to be honest with you, out of the three lenses that I owned at the time, which were the 20, the 50, and the 24 to 105, I didn't have my 35 with me, but I did later get it back and exchanged it for the Nikon 35. Of those three lenses, the one that had the worst problem was the 50 f1.4, obviously because it's the shallowest depth of field out of all three of those lenses. So I think I tested the majority with the Sigma 50 f1.4, but I also had the same problem with the 24 to 105 and also the 20 f1.4. So just putting that out there. Now, the problem was basically this. In normal light, they focused excellently. So there's no problem with autofocus in normal light, which is, let's be honest, what 75% of you guys shoot. So if you shoot in normal light only and ever only in normal light, then go out and get the Sigmas. They're brilliant lenses. but there was a problem as soon as a light fell dim. So firstly, their autofocus isn't as good as the real Nikons when the light was dim without any assistance. So we're talking about just plain autofocusing in low light without any illumination. They wouldn't be able to match the performance of these lenses. And on top of that, when the camera's AF assist beam came on, so we're talking about the white LED on the camera that always comes on without a speed light, they focused fine. So they all focused the same, they all focused accurately, and I was very happy with their performance. But the onboard camera LED has several limitations, which is why I'm not able to use it exclusively. Firstly, it is annoying. If you've been on the receiving end of the camera LED in low light, you do not like it. Believe me, it is not likable and people will hate you if you use it. Now, the second problem is that the reach isn't very far and it's not very accurate. So sometimes it gets blocked by lens hoods. It doesn't reach beyond like 2 meters. So that basically means that if you're shooting anything telephoto, you're going to get it completely blocked off and you're not going to be able to get anything at all. So it's not the ideal candidate to be using in low light when you're shooting professionally and trying to make money from it. So what you have to do, and what is the most accepted thing to do for, like, we're talking about like 30 years now, ever since film, is to use the AF assist beam on the speed light. So that produces a red beam instead of the white LED, and it's much more comfortable for people on the other side. The reach is much further, it doesn't get blocked by lens hoods, and it's also much quicker and more accurate. So it's so important that lenses are able to nail this, and all of my Nikon lenses do. The 20 does, the 35 does, the 85 does, the 50 does, and even my Tamron 70-200 nails focus perfectly with the AF assist beam on the speed light. I would say even better than without. Well, of course, right? Otherwise we wouldn't use them. But the Sigmas don't behave that way. With the AF light on the camera, so the white LED, they focus fine, but with the red LED in the speed light, they focus extremely erratically. They're not able to lock on, and even when they are locked on, they're severely front or back focused. I didn't have the time to figure out what it was, whether it was consistently front or consistently back, but it wasn't able to be fixed. Now, I know some people are going to say, oh, so why didn't you just use AF fine tune? Well, that's great. I can AF fine tune and get it to work, and in fact I did, but the moment you turn off the speed light and you go back to shooting in normal conditions, then you'd have to undo that. And you know, if you want to do that, if you want to sit around and muck around and put in those settings every time you shoot in low light, that's great, and you know, you'll be very happy with the Sigma lenses. But I don't have the time nor the patience to do that, and the quality of the Sigma glass wasn't enough to sway me away from getting the Nikon glass and just doing it properly to start off with. So I guess what do I want to conclude this video with is this. I wanted to like those lenses. In fact, I'm the sort of person who genuinely believes that third-party manufacturers have really stepped up their game over the past couple of years, and they have. Tamron have been releasing some great lenses, and so have Sigma. In fact, I would say that a lot of Sigma's lenses are a lot better than Nikon's lenses, and that's the truth. If you compare Nikon's 50 f1.4 against Sigma's 50 f1.4 Art, the Sigma is better. If you compare the Nikon 35 f1.4 to the Sigma's f1.4 Art, the Sigma is better. That said, I still think that the Nikon 35 f1.8G ED, so the FX version, is a great value lens, but that's not the topic of this video. So I think Sigma produces some excellent lenses at excellent prices, but you have to understand that when you're buying third-party lenses, there's going to be two problems. The first problem is that when you run into trouble, no one is going to want to support you. So if you contact Nikon and say, you know, hey, I have this problem with Sigma's lenses, they're going to say, go away. You go to Sigma and they try to push you back to Nikon. You know, they say, oh, it's the body manufacturer's fault, it's not our fault. So I think that's the real problem with going with third-party manufacturers. There's not one central location where you can make a complaint and expect that it's going to be resolved. If you buy a Nikon body and a Nikon lens and they don't work together, you send both of them to Nikon and Nikon will make them work for you. If they don't, then they're probably breaching some consumer laws. Now, on top of that, the second thing I really want to mention is this. Third-party lenses, to get to the price they get to, they have to cut corners. And what that means is that if you're in the 95% that do normal things, with your lenses, then you're okay. They're designed for you. But for the 5% who do something remarkably different, such as a lot of tracking AF, or for example, what I do, using the IR AF assist beam on the speedlights, then you're going to run into trouble purely because they just didn't have the time, the engineering, and the capabilities to be able to implement everything. That is why Nikon still sells lenses. That is why people still buy lenses from Nikon instead of just from Sigma, because they are able to produce more reliable results for more people. And I think that's a massive, massive thing. Reliability is king. I've said this before, and I'll say this again. This right here is the Nikon 35 f1.8G. The FX version, not the DX version. It's a really good lens. It's really, really small and tiny, and it works extremely well, and I love using it. Is it as sharp as a Sigma 35 f1.4? No. Does it open as wide to f1.4? No. But hey, would you rather an in-focus shot from this guy and consistent in-focus shots, or would you rather sporadically focused shots on the Sigma? That question is up to you. And I think for me, having this guy be reliable and giving me in-focus shots day in, day out, time and time again, in all conditions, is much more important than whatever image quality gains I might have made from the Sigma. So, in conclusion, I just want to say, don't hate on Sigma. I don't. Don't hate on Tamron. I don't. But know what you're buying, know what you're getting into, and know the weaknesses and the limitations of third-party glass when you buy them, and you won't be disappointed as I was. I was very happy, but now I'm very disappointed, and I guess just making a mental note from now on, I'm going to stick with Nikon lenses on Nikon bodies because I think that's what works best. But if you want to buy Sigma, then I highly recommend them for 95% of photographers out there. Like I've said, if you do normal things, shooting normal things in good light, then they produce astonishing results, and the results show for it. I love my results, but I just need something different. So thanks for tuning in. I hope this was informative for you. I'm sorry if it wasn't what you expected or what you wanted, and I'm sorry for the terrible lighting conditions. It's like around 1 a.m. here, and I'm back to work on Monday the 4th, so I really wanted to make this and get it out of the way before then, but now I've got to edit it and hopefully get it online. So thank you for your patience, and thank you for listening to this little ramble and rant, and I hope you've gained something from it. So yeah, make sure you leave a like and comment below if you don't agree with me, or if you do agree with me, or if you just wanted to discuss something, and make sure you subscribe and don't miss my future videos. Thank you.